Today, I'm diving into the pervasive and sneaky ways that writer's block infiltrates and sabotages your creative process. Writer's block was actually impacting my writing life and my real life for far longer and far deeper than I'd realized. And today, I'm bringing this reframe to you. So let's go.
You are listening to the Memoir Method podcast, the place for writers, readers, and anyone who appreciates the collective power of our stories. In this podcast, we explore the impact of memoir alongside an examination of writing techniques and strategies used in the genre. Whether you are a writer looking for inspiration and guidance or a passionate reader seeking meaningful connections through shared experiences, the Memoir Method podcast is your go-to conversation spot. I'm your host, Charlotte, editor, writer, and the heart behind Charlotte Writes. Let's get started.
Writer's block is so much more than just not having good ideas. If you had asked me 6 months ago whether I had writer's block, I would have laughed in your face. Of course not, because I'm not really writing. Listen to that again. Of course I don't have writer's block. I'm not really writing anyway. I'm not really writing anyway. When I thought about that, that was my first response. And that's a red flag. You see the problem. Here I was thinking that there's no way I could have writer's block because I wasn't even writing. But what happens with writer's block is that you stop producing output. So maybe I didn't identify with having a dearth of ideas, but I wasn't pursuing ideas and I still wasn't really writing, even though I still technically have been calling myself a writer. So maybe you're similar. You hear the words writer's block and you don't really identify with that because it has such a specific stereotype attached to it. But if you're not writing or even not making the progress you think you should be making by now, you probably have some variant of writer's block. So here are 3 sneaky signs that you have writer's block that manifests in disrupting your life. Number 1, you say you're a writer, but you're treating your writing like a hobby. This is actually something that I identified when I put together the Memoir Kryptonite quiz. I'll link to that in the show notes. It's a fun one. If you are treating your memoir like a hobby, then you are sabotaging your creative process and your creativity. Hobbyist writers will dip in when it feels easy or convenient, or when they are inspired, and maybe they'll produce something worth playing with later. But writing requires practice. It demands consistency. When you're out of practice, you 1, won't be as attuned to inspiration when it hits, and 2, you won't know how to execute it as well as you want to when it does. The hobby mentality with your writing isn't so much a scheduling or time management problem. It's really a slow erosion of your confidence and your dreams and abilities dressed up as a reasonable life choice. You keep putting it off because now's not a good time. That actually speaks to one of my points in a minute. So my question to you is, are you treating your writing like something you actually want to build and invest in? Or is it just something that you visit when you feel like it? That's one way that writer's block can disrupt your life and sabotage your creative process. Number 2 is that you are consuming more than you create. This is one of the hardest truths for me to embrace and integrate into my life. When I looked at why I hadn't been writing the way that I thought I'd wanted to, I had to examine how I was using my time. Yes, I'm a parent to school-aged kids. I have a very full life. My schedule can get really busy. I have some weeks where we just have something every night. I run this business, which takes up lots of time. I devote time to my clients, but I do technically have time. I technically have extra time. I was just using so much of it to consume other people's ideas and opinions. The scroll is so easy, and it's right there on your phone. It's so easy, but it is one of the worst ways that you can spend your time as a creative writer. When I default to scrolling, I'm actually numbing out my own creative radar, and I fill it with everyone else's noise. That's what happens when you mindlessly scroll, when you are a creative writer. When I had time to write, I sometimes couldn't even hear myself think because my brain was so full with other people's ideas, other people's opinions. And so I'd bounce to something else, sometimes right back to scrolling because I'm like, I don't know what to write. Your consumption as a creative writer is wildly underrated in its importance. If you are consuming more than you are creating, then you are facing a writer's block either right now or very soon. It's the second way that writer's block will disrupt your life, is consumption outweighs creation. And number 3 is that you've disappointed yourself on repeat. And maybe you might not even articulate it that way, but let me explain it a little bit more. A few months ago, my grandpa passed away. He had lived for over 9 decades. He lived a good, full life. He was my last remaining grandparent. And since he died, I've been thinking more about how I spend my time and what I want other people to know about me when it's my time to move on. And I realized I do not want anyone to say she really wanted to be a writer. Like, that makes me feel gutted. If I left this earth today and they said she really wanted to do that, I want my kids, my grandkids to point to my work, to books that I've published and say, look at who she was, look at what she created, look at all the things that she had to say and all the ideas that she had. And this isn't a plug for toxic productivity, as if the only valuable things in our lives are what we can produce. But for writers, that creative output is important because it reflects who you are, not just what you do. Being a writer is an identity, not a job or a hobby, like I said earlier. Being a writer is a change in how you see yourself, how you think, and how you move. And when you know that you're not being who you're meant to be, whether that is a conscious knowing or subconscious knowing, your confidence erodes and you live with a perpetual self-disappointment. I can say this because I've lived it. When you keep falling short of your own desires and expectations, that gap does not usually default to being motivated to change. It amplifies the imposter syndrome, and the less you write, the less you feel like you can write. This takes a very conscious mental shift in how and what you think. It is work to consciously recode this part of your brain, because deciding to be a writer is a complete identity shift. It's not like, oh, I'm going to learn how to sew. I'm going to learn how to bake. And I do both of those things. I love them. Neither of those is so integral to my identity and how I move through my life as it is that I'm a writer. So all of these are ways that the rewrite loop, which I've talked about so many times before, can manifest in your life. And these are ways that writer's block will show up and disrupt your creative process. It's subtle, sneaky, and persistent. Writer's block is another name for the rewrite loop, basically. These are different ways that the rewrite loop will manifest in your life and in your days. So this is why, if you are not highly intentional with crafting a creative rhythm and showing up for your own creative work, you will not create what you are meant to create. Published books don't happen by luck or accident. It is discipline, intention, and dialed-in creative processes repeated over weeks, months, and years. It is woven into how you move through your world, how you think about yourself, and therefore how you create. Maybe none of these felt like writer's block when you were experiencing them because it doesn't have you staring at a blank page like a Stephen King character, right? I read Misery earlier this year, and that author is facing writer's block. No, I don't know what to write. That's not the only way that writer's block will show up. But these are all rooted in the same thing. All of these examples, old stories running in the background, keeping you from showing up as a creative and as a writer. The hobby mentality is an old story. The consumption spiral is an old story. And the confidence collapse is an old story. All of them running on repeat in your subconscious. The good news, though, is that these stories can be rewritten. Writer's block isn't just what happens when you're looking at the page. It's what's going on in your whole creative life when old programming is running the show. And that is what I'm so excited to shift for you this summer. So I have 2 things for you today. First, I made a free resource for you called the Writer's Block Decoder. This is a fabulous first step for the writer who, like myself, didn't originally identify as having writer's block. I worked through these exercises myself as I was trying to figure out, why am I having such a hard time showing up as a writer that I know I want to be? Why is this hard for me right now? I went through the exercises that I outline in the Writer's Block Decoder. It's a Google Doc. You'll copy it and it will copy to your own drive and you can fill it in. This will help you name the coding running your creative life so that you can then start to shift it. This is free. Link is in the show notes. Second, if you are ready to take this identity shift seriously, I have a workshop series coming at the end of the month called the Writer's Workshop. This is a series of 3 live workshops, all designed to recode that creative wiring so that you can show up to your writing consistently, creatively, and confidently. These workshops are running June 22nd, 23rd, and 25th. This is in the last full week of the month on a Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. I will make all of the replays available. If you're listening to this episode after June 2026, you can still go and purchase the Writer's Workshop replays and go through them on your own time. Our first session is called the Permission Slip, and we'll dive deep into that creative mindset that we've talked about a little bit today. I used to think that mindset stuff was really fluffy and ultimately unnecessary, but how and what you think are the foundations of literally everything you build and create in your life. If you want to create something externally, you have to change your thinking to create it in your mind first. We start there. The second session is all about consuming as a creative. We're going to tackle everything from mindful consumption to staying responsibly informed and how to unplug and rewire your attention. Again, this is part of the identity shift and how you move as a person in the world. And in our final session, we're going into crafting your custom writing practice. All of this information will mean nothing if you are not integrating it. And in this final workshop of the series, the rubber will meet the road and you will take all of the information from the previous 2 workshops and sketch out a creative process and rhythm that actually works for you. So the Writer's Workshop is $77 for all 3 through June 2026. And then it's going to jump to $222 after that. So what you're going to learn here is the foundation of how to be a writer in the 21st century. And this will serve you, no exaggeration, for the rest of your life. I'm not here to hawk out some generic writing advice and then call you transformed. I'm here to give you tools, frameworks, and resources that will actually transform you as a person, as a writer, and will stay with you throughout your creative life. So the link to join me in the Writer's Workshop is in the show notes. I would love to see you there with me. We have workbooks. It's going to be such a vibe. I cannot wait. So to recap, Writer's Block is sneaky, and you can decode it using my free Writer's Block Decoder, again, in the show notes. And then if you're ready to take yourself seriously as a writer, you want to be in the room when I teach the Writer's Workshop sessions. Everything you need from today's episode is in the show notes, and I will see you next week.
You've just listened to an episode of the Memoir Method Podcast. The Memoir Method Podcast is presented by Charlotte Writes. If you liked what you heard, the best way to support the show is to subscribe through your preferred podcast player. And if you're feeling especially inspired, I'd love it if you left a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Leaving a review really does help other readers and writers like yourself find the show. If you want to continue the conversation, you can find me on my website at charlottewrites.co or on Instagram at charlottejanewrites. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next time. And remember that you have a story that matters.